Okay, so hi everyone. Welcome to this fireside chat where innovators, product creators, entrepreneurs come to discuss impactful ideas. Our mission is to inspire more people to build great product experiences, get into product. My name is André Marquet, and I'll be your host today. So today, I'll be talking with Margaux Muller. Margaux, she's hailing from France, and she started her product career in San Francisco after 3 years working in professional services. She went from product manager to senior product manager, then lead product manager at SmartRecruiters, working on both B2B and B2C platforms and products. And she's now a senior product manager at the amazing Berlin scale-up Contentful. When she's not solving customer problems or rocking with engineers, you can find her making food, trying out new recipes, or deepening her knowledge in wines. And she's also spending a lot of time participating on diversity and inclusion initiatives, both internally inside the company or helping people find jobs, reviewing resumes, giving advice, mentoring. The benefits of having worked for an applicant tracking system is that she knows the ins and outs of the recruiting trade. And I think this is going to be super helpful for all of you guys today. So hi, Margaux, welcome. And thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So where are you today?
I am based in Berlin. Yeah, definitely no need for a fireside with the current weather. I assume it's the same in Lisbon.
It is super hot today as well. It's a very sunny and shiny day, actually. We will have students from our current cohort and also people joining in this chat. So most of people joining us today actually coming from a non-tech role or a non-tech background. I guess that's also your journey. You came from a non-tech role. So how did you get into product in the first place, Margaux?
Yeah, so I was working in professional services, as you mentioned, for an HR tech company in France. Mm-hmm. And when I moved to San Francisco with my husband, I naturally looked into HR tech companies in the Silicon Valley. So I applied at SmartRecruiters, which is an applicant tracking system. And I was hired as an enterprise implementation manager. At the time, it was still a small company who just started selling to enterprise. It actually just became a unicorn yesterday. But anyway, throughout this time, I was always hanging out with our product and design team, working on some projects with them, like creating a persona book together, organizing and leading some in-depth interviews with our customers, etc. And so I was always kind of like tagging along and proposing my help and things like that. So having this job really allowed me to both know the tiniest details of our product, understanding the pain points of our customers, since I was talking to them all day, all week long, as well as understanding core technical concepts, because I was like designing integrations with my teams. Mm-hmm. But also that super close relationship with product allowed me to understand the product process and what it takes to build products. So that would be, my advice. If you have that possibility in your company, get yourself known to the product team, propose your help. I'm sure, product managers or designers will gladly take you on into some interviews so you can see how it looks like and things like that. So when a job opened at SmartRecruiters in product, I applied internally and I became a product manager on the core platform. So my goal here was to make our administrator persona happy, because mm-hmm. it's a persona that I was working with every day before. So think everything that happens under the hood of a software, like permissions, configuration APIs, processes, templates, and things like that. Yeah.
Great. So what took you to San Francisco in the first place?
That's a good question. The love of the Bay Area, no, but I studied, I did a year abroad mm-hmm. during my bachelor. So I did an exchange with UC Berkeley.
Oh, nice.
And I did fell in love with the Bay Area. So after that,
Where are you coming from? France, right? Which part
yeah.
of France are you coming from?
So I'm from Alsace, which is on the east
Oh,
side of France.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I went back to Paris, and then I was like, I'm missing that sunshine and this nice vibe in the Bay Area. So
Yeah, you cannot be tricked by
decided to go back.
this, right?
No, yeah, no. I know you're faking it in Lisbon, but
Yeah.
I'll come to see that bridge one day.
Yeah. Um, so you have been working on recruitment. So you worked those years for that applicant tracking system. Um, how was that experience inside having this face-to-face experience inside a company like that? Did you come up with any funny story that you remember? Because you should have first access to lots of this processes in terms of applications and so on,
Um, nothing funny really.
right?
um, uh, there are some very creative companies out there. I think one that really mastered a good transformation was I think it was McDonald's Canada,
Mm-hmm.
who was looking for a lot of operators in their stores and not stores, restaurants, I guess, yeah, and they did Snap applications. So they built an entire job applications via Snapchat. So you would
Mm-hmm.
have like a filter with like a McDonald's hat and
Mm-hmm.
everything. And
I
they
think I
integrated
remember
that
that.
with their ATS, and they got like a massive amount of applicants. So, this is a company, like from a digital standpoint, they were really able to find the right audience through the right channel.
Right.
And
Channel is a super important thing, right?
yeah,
For the recruiters, for you really know where you should be
no,
pitching people, right? You don't go LinkedIn for McDonald's, you go to other platforms. That makes lots of sense.
yeah, exactly.
So,
But I did get a funny pitch though, not when I was working at SmartRecruiters, but last month I got an email on LinkedIn, since we're mentioning that,
okay.
where a recruiter shared her Spotify playlist called Sourcing Jam. And she said, so it was actually a real playlist because I went through it, pretty good. And she said, yes, the Beatles sang it. She's looking for help. She needs someone help
Yeah.
to lead product in the company. And she ended her email with like, have a beautiful day, with like U2 lyrics. And so I thought that was pretty brilliant. Yeah.
That was definitely a very interesting approach. I tried a couple of approaches like that in the past, not necessarily in the talent market, other markets, as you can imagine. I guess I was not very successful with those approaches, but still.
The creative
Um,
playlist.
yeah, creative playlist. Yes, back in the CD days. So that was many years
Mm-hmm.
ago. No Spotify back then. So, in your opinion, is there? So you've now transitioned to what is essentially, it, I would say, B2B company, right?
Yeah, and I mean, SmartRecruiters was
B2B,
is still a
right?
B2B platform, right? It's a software for companies,
Absolutely,
for
for
enterprise
companies.
customers. They do have a B2C side though, where they offer a tool for job seekers
Mm-hmm.
to help them find a job and things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
they have this little B2C side. Now I'm a senior product manager at Contentful, which is an API first platform. So definitely B2B all the way.
B2B all the way.
Yeah.
So
So
lots of people have this, I don't know, fantasized idea. You talk with first product managers or product managers to be when they're kind of doing their first, and companies that come to mind are essentially B2C companies, right? The companies that are um, popping up in people's mind. But chances are you're going to work for a B2B company, you're going to work for a company which is, best case scenario, B2B2C or something like that. So what do you think is the biggest difference in terms of the product management work you do when you are inside a B2B versus a B2C company, which tends to be maybe the more fantasized version of the PM role?
So I'd say the product process might generally be the same, but in the daily details, I would say so. There's lots of differences. I can only talk about the B2C experience that I've had at SmartRecruiters when I launched that product that I mentioned for job seeker. The different steps in their journey, I think the first one is the research. I have found personally user research to be more difficult in the B2C side of things. It has been my experience that software customers are generally more inclined to give you their opinion, and they want to make sure that the product they purchased will work for them and will work for their organization, so that the investment is not in vain for them. I have found it more difficult to get the opinion of a wide range of demographic of consumers organically by asking them, hey, do you want to give me your opinion about X? And really, like, the outreach you have to do is gigantic before you have someone that says, sure, I'll talk to you. And so I think this is also why there are so many platforms out there that arrange for you user research or user testing. There's lots of them. And I think it's particularly because it's difficult to get to talk to consumers. Yeah. Like, even though you said, I'll give you a $30 gift card or something like that, it's just hard to get. The step after, I guess.
So sorry, just checking in here, but you're saying that in B2B, it's hard to talk with your
B2C.
customers?
B2B is easier because companies want to make it work. And so if you say, hey, is a customer willing to talk to me about this array of problems, then you'll get a lot of hand raising. And on the B2C, it's much more difficult because you don't have that relationship with them already.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then on building and releasing, I think when it comes to software, and especially enterprise software, you need to be diligent about your release schedule, right? So some companies work on ad hoc basis, but all of them follow a quarterly release planning or even a yearly release. I think I've heard that a few times. And before releasing, you need to ensure that your customers are made aware of the change, that they receive proper training, that they can test a feature in a sandbox environment even, or things like that. So as a product manager, you might be less flexible in what and when you release and test and things like that. But of course, this is very dependent on the companies that you work for. So it's not a generality for all
product culture. So in terms of Contentful, just for people that might not be so familiar with the platform, what are the main takeaways that the Contentful platform enables? So who are you actually targeting? So maybe just in terms of market segmentation, is it what kind of companies and what are the jobs to be done that are going to, be provided by that?
So Contentful basically allow digital teams to focus on creating great content, and basically Contentful, the platform, takes care of storing it, delivering it fast, hopefully, and making it super flexible for them to use in a lot of different ways, be it extensible or just like a reliable platform for content to go
basically
out.
Competing against HTML and CSS, or you're competing against WordPress? Who are you pitching against?
So we're in the world of CMS. So it's content management system. There are some differences between WordPress and Contentful, in the sense that Contentful is an API first platform, and WordPress is definitely less flexible. So there are things that we call headless and more normal CMS.
Cool. So what was the vision behind Contentful? Is that vision still a big part of the story of Contentful nowadays?
I joined Contentful 6 months ago or something. So I'm employee probably like number 450, something like this. But I still sense that the vision and the principle are something strong here at Contentful, and we're still following some of those vision and principles that we've had in the past. So Org group vision is aligned to the product dev vision, which is aligned to the company vision. And we have a set of guiding principles, like we're a platform first, meaning how easy it is to build on top of our solution. API first, which makes sure that our product is the same, whether you're a developer integrating to another tool or an editor using one of our apps, and early access program first. And that's actually pretty cool here. And we make sure to test our products with real customers before putting it out there for general availability. I actually just launched one today, so I don't know. Yeah, I might get some feedback after this meeting in my inbox from a few customers testing it.
All right. So can you tell me a little bit about that feature that you just launched?
Sure. So, I'm part of a team that is making our creators, editors, and orchestrators happy. So they're actually, I don't know, like product marketers and writers that just go in the product and would actually write things for it to be published out there. And my job in particular is to ensure that these people collaborate together within the platform and that they have a good workflow that they can follow. So I released a functionality about creating tasks and assigning it to a person or a group of persons. So we'll see how that goes and what feedback we get.
All right. Excited? That must be exciting. It's just that you have your baby out there, and then let's wait for features. So how was the discovery process for that specific feature? Was that something you did, researching with clients? Was that feedback you got from your customer service? How did that pop up, that specific feature on collaboration?
Yeah, I mean, when I started, I had a few months of research in front of me. And I was really able to take the time and really, diving into this area of the product. And so I did, I don't know how many interviews, over 20, something like this, to really understand how people were working with content and what were the steps throughout the content journey. So it definitely stemmed from that feedback that I got based on this and internal interviews and data and some competitive analysis as well. I was able to come up with a list of jobs to be done that I thought that we should work on in a prioritized order. And so I presented that to our leadership team and they said, go ahead with your number one. So the number one has been done and out since today.
All right, congratulations for that. So, there's lots of secret sauce on great software companies and great software products. We have lots of people here. Most of people here are kind of doing their MVP or kind of launching their, first software digital product. Any specific advice on that, where where to start in the beginning, where you still have very little evidence, very little traction, so you have an idea and then you want to have, you want to ship it. So where to start, really?
So how to create great software is a very broad question that I guess we can talk about for hours. But two main things comes to mind from my experience. The first one, I think people might want to throw tomatoes at me here because I'm going to pronounce the forbidden word, but process. Your product process has to be simple, lean, and function like a well-oiled machine, because one, it allows everyone to know their role along the journey. But more importantly, if done well, it allows the team to focus on the most important aspect of product management, which you mentioned already, Andre, which is solving the right problem at the right time and identifying the most important jobs to be done. And so I mentioned it briefly, but here at Contentful, I know not all companies are doing that, but I think it's quite interesting. The product manager number one responsibility is to identify those jobs and prioritize them. And so the PM is effectively in charge of the problem discovery and is more removed from the solutioning, where it's the responsibility of the designer and the engineer.
Mhm.
So I quite like this approach because it ensures that the PM is thinking jobs to be done, problem, and not solution and feature right away. And so that brings more creativity in the solutioning.
Yeah.
And then the second, I'd say great tip, not a great tip, it's quite obvious, collaboration. I can't stress enough the importance of a relationship between a product manager and his team with the product designers and engineers. And I think it's the major key to any successful product, because you can't do it all by yourself as a product manager, as smart as you are. I don't think it's possible. So here are some tips I can share with you. If you start in an established team, meet with them, understand how they work, what they like, what they don't like, what they expect from you, what you expect from them, how you work, etc. And I think that helps set a good base for a trusting relationship and exchanging a lot of feedback. And the second tip is really to involve everyone from the beginning. Invite your engineers to your in-depth interviews with customers. Bring them on
super
site.
Important.
Let them watch how your users are using your product. Do dog fooding workshops. Dog fooding being, we use our own product, right? Always explain results from a user testing, share competitive news. That company launched this. It's so close to what we're doing. And so if everyone's really involved from the beginning, it really allows for the best solutions to be thought and built, because you can't just think of everything by yourself. Yeah, you're really a team there.
Absolutely. And, you know, super hard question, but still, what is like the single most important thing a company in terms of product can do to be successful? Because I guess that process you have in place at Contentful, where you focus so much on the problem space and not so much on the solution space, that was already in place when you joined the company. How did it come to to that conclusion? Was that something CPO or the CEO decided, or is it part of the culture?
That's a good question. I don't know all the details. As I said, I only came here six months ago, but our VP of product is a really strong leader, and has lots of experience leading product in very different tech companies. And so I believe he's the one who brought this to the table, and really defining who is responsible for what at that time. Yeah.
So you're a believer in processes. You think processes are important. It has a ground for good development, for good company outcomes.
I think there are processes and processes. You have some processes that are very long and very strict and tight knit, and you can't really work around those, and it takes more time to get something done right. I think that's not the way I see the word process here. And at Contentful, it's more like, these are the things that we want to ensure gets done before we launch a feature, and here are the people responsible for it.
How many people do you actually have working product at Contentful right now? So how big is the team and how is it structured? You have a VP of product and...
Yeah, I never really counted, but I would say between 20 and 25 product managers. Yeah, we have, I'd say like over a dozen engineering team. Each engineering team has a product designer and a product manager. So a PM is not working on multiple teams at the same time, which is really nice. And an engineering manager, yeah.
And since you arrived 6 months ago, how long did you take to actually launch this team feature? Actually, you did it, I don't know, quite fast. So you took research, you had previous research done, and then you did those interviews, 20 interviews or so. And how long was that between research and shipping?
I guess like 3 months and a half, 4 months, where I was really able to do deep research, which is a luxury in a company to have so much time to do research. But yeah, and then it took like two months to build something like this. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so maybe
But
we can
just to
go
go
on.
back on, sorry, on your initial question about, yeah, what's the single most important thing that a company can do, and I think we're not talking about it enough in product discussion, is I'd say nurturing a great relationship between product development or R&D and the go-to-market teams. So think like your support team, professional services, customer success, sales, pre-sales. So really the money side of the company. And I think they both rely strongly on each other. And if you have a good relationship and a good bridge between those two worlds, if you want, then it can really take your company to.
Do you have a product marketing managers as well inside Contentful? Is that?
Yeah, we do have a great product marketing team, but we also have regular syncs and updates. So every sprint, everyone in the company can come and follow what we have built. They give their opinions. So they share all that context about why we're building things in a certain way. So I think that's super important. And at a leadership level, they're also invited to listen to us when we're pitching to leadership about certain product ideas and why we think we should solve certain problems. Yeah. So.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about recruitment, if you may. I know. Can you tell us about a recent example of a company that, we talked about McDonald's and how they're using that those channels to really activate community and talent acquisition. But in terms of the product space, it has become a very competitive space. I guess Berlin, it's, even more competitive. It's a very hot startup city. So lots of companies pitching for product jobs. Which company do you think has really, created a good employee onboarding experience? Anything comes to mind when you think about employee onboarding experiences for product managers?
Not necessarily employee onboarding, but I think companies that are brilliant at attracting top talents are the ones that are forward thinking in terms of future of work. And so, for example, like Atlassian allowing remote work in a similar-ish time zone and coming to the office only 4 times a year, or coming to the office more if you want. Or you have companies also offering a 4 days work week. When I was looking for a job this winter, this was presented to me by a company called Welcome to the Jungle, and it automatically clicks in your head and you think, if the company is trusting their employees to do the job in 4 days versus 5 and offering that flexibility, it tells a lot about its values and the way they're just forward thinking.
If you have to choose an assistant PM to work with you, which 3 characteristics would you pitch to contract him, and which 3 would actually eliminate him or her from your, your hiring process?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I'd say rejecting her is always hard, and I don't think it's that clear cut. It's more like the overall impression and work that you give throughout the interview. But 3 characteristics that usually click is when you see PMs that are super organized, but not only organized, but in the responses to some interview questions are also showing that they're able to propose new things to make just like the product machine a better oiled process, basically. So I think that was some brilliant APM interviews that I've had, where they not only showed they were very well organized, but also they gave some suggestions. So that's one, and I'd say some qualities where you can adapt easily to the environment that you have around you, that you can work on different types of products, and yeah, different setups, different sorts of timelines and things like that.
All right. So still on the product, how do you think companies should avoid becoming feature factories, and instead of focusing on customer outcomes and really being outcome factories, right? So I know it's a very debated topic,
Yeah.
but it's so easy to get into that trap. So how do you spot that now? What's your opinion on that?
Maybe let's start with a clarification on what a feature factory is. And so tell me how you see this, Andre. But for me, it's shipping constantly one feature after the other, focus on the quantity, not on the customer problem. Is that a fair description?
That's a fair description. I don't want to bring dinner discussions to this fireside chat, so but it seems fair to me.
Okay, yeah. So I might not be the best to talk about this topic, to be honest. I know there's lots of resources from John Cutler, who's the one who came up with that term, which is a great term. But from where I'm standing and with my experience, I can say probably two things. Always focus on your customer problems. That seems obvious, and I have mentioned it so many times already in this meeting, but it's crucial to identify and prioritize precise jobs to be done. And the jobs to be done is what a person really seeks, or a user really seeks to do in a given circumstance, right? And always have and understand the evidence in your hand, whether it's analytical data or interviews or things like that. And so I'd say, like, be transparent about this data that you have and these jobs to be done that you've identified, and don't be afraid to go ahead and explain the context as much as you can to all stakeholders around you. That's really my advice. Like, explain as much as you can so that you don't have those roadmap disruptions happening at the last minute. So if you share that context all the time, I think it's really helpful. And then the second advice that I think all of us as PMs are trying to grow is to make room for measuring and iterating. So stay away from shipping features and not looking back. I know it's easy. You're happy the baby's out, as you said earlier, and you're not looking back, right? So you have to ensure that you're like doing retrospectives, identify the learnings that you can apply to the next product, that you're always measuring the usage of your feature, and share it with your team, whether it's good or bad. Sometimes it might not be good, but at least everyone's aware of it. Like, there's nothing to be ashamed of, and together you can think about what can be done there and what we can iterate on. And so actually at Contentful, I'm talking again about Contentful process, but we actually have a status for all of our epics called Launch, Measure, Iterate. And we have to give a status update on those as well on a regular basis. So we're not only updating on what's in discovery, what's in solutioning, what's being built, but we also say, we launched this as an early access program. We're measuring this. These are the changes we're going to make. And even though when it's launched on GA, we still, log all of that feedback and make a plan for it.
Yeah, that's so important. So important. Yes. Margaux, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing all these insights today. It was so helpful. Can you please just tell us whether people can get in touch with you if they want, and how to do that?
Yeah, LinkedIn works. If you have any questions about product management, wanting to know more about Contentful, or, as I said, hiring tips, I spent a lot of time coaching people, reviewing resumes, making sure they're ATS proof. So yeah, feel free to reach out. Just don't hesitate at all.